I recently took over a Google Ads account that was turned off because it was struggling to be profitable. And now here's where we are 55 days later, 51K in revenue off just 3.8K in spend. That's a 13x ROAS and by no means an anomaly. In fact, this high profitability ad strategy has been a staple in my seven figure ecom brands, including the one I recently exited for 700,000 US dollars. So today I'm literally going to let you watch me build an ad strategy from scratch so you can see how I do it. I'm going to do it for this brand that sells camping and overlanding equipment, and I'm going to show you how I do it for roof racks, which is their best selling collection. As you can see, they sell loads of different roof racks for different vehicle types and at different price points between sort of 500 US dollars up to about 2K. Now, there's a very specific strategy and setup that's needed to make this brand hyper profitable in paid ads, and I'm going to show you literally how I build that now. If this is your sort of thing and you're interested in building seven figure ecom brands, I have a school community that teaches people to do just that, and it's free to join. There's a link in the first comment below. Diving into the strategy, I would start with shopping ads, which is where you can put products in people's feeds based on a search term in Google. This is the first area where it's easy to win because 99% of brands set these up very suboptimally. Now, what I would do is set up three campaigns. I'd have a top of funnel shopping campaign, a middle of funnel, and a bottom of funnel shopping campaign. And these would be segmented based on the intent of the keywords. The shopping ads trigger when someone puts a search term in, and that can be everything from roof rack through to roof rack for a Subaru Outback 2024. Okay, very different intent to purchase in those two search terms, and also a very different value to me as the business owner or account owner. Now, here's what 99% of brands do wrong. And it's not really their fault because Google does funnel you down this route. Oh, little accidental pun there. Essentially, Google pushes you to have one shopping campaign. So here I've got three. Google pushes you to have one. And that means that all of the search terms, whether they're high intent, mid intent, low intent, they all go in that one campaign. And you can segment your bids by product type or ad group, but you can't by search term. So if someone searches for roof rack and it triggers an ad versus someone searches for Subaru Outback Roof Rack 2024, the bid is going to be the same, which is crazy because the value to you as the store owner is radically different. Now, the CPCs, cost per click, won't be that different for some of these high intent keywords versus the generic ones. But obviously, there's a lot more search volume for something like roof rack versus heavyweight roof rack universal compatibility, for example. So, what will generally happen is someone will come to me and say, I've spent $2,000 on ads and I've had 2,000 clicks at a $1 CPC, but I've made a handful of purchases and I'm really unprofitable. And then I look in their search terms report and I see that most of their spend is going on hyper generic search terms like roof rack for truck, bike roof rack, that sort of thing, right? And obviously, the intent to purchase on those terms is lower. Someone is right at the top of the funnel. They are browsing. They're interested in roof racks, but they don't yet know what type they want, what size, what price point, all these sorts of things that move them down the funnel and make them closer to purchase. Therefore, if that's who we're getting in front of course, our conversion rate and therefore our profitability is low. So I take over their shopping campaigns, and before they only had one bid because they only had one campaign, right? So whether it was roof rack or Subaru Outback Roof Rack 2024, they were bidding $1. So they were really competitive up here on roof racks and really uncompetitive down here on high intent keywords. Then I come in, I split it out into three campaigns, and I'm now uncompetitive on the generic terms. I bid, say, 20 cents. I get some of the traffic, but it doesn't make up 95% of my clicks. Then I'm a bit more competitive on something in the middle. Maybe there's a brand involved or it's got a use case, roof rack for surfboards. And maybe I'm bidding $1. And then finally, on my really high intent to purchase keywords, I've got things like, Thule Wing Bar Evo. That's a product name and a brand name, or for a specific vehicle or a very specific use case. I'm hyper competitive. Now, my average CPC across the account is probably about the same as this $1. But I'm now getting far more of my traffic in this area, the high intent keywords, because they're the ones that bring conversions. And that's how I get my ROAS as high as possible and my spend working as hard as possible for me. Now, in order to work out what my high value keywords are going to be, I need to do some keyword research. My favorite tool is Ahrefs, but you can do this on any of the tools. And I'm going to have a look at the related terms report for roof racks, which is the parent keyword, so to speak, of this product type. And 3,000 keywords, oof, well, my friend ChatGPT is going to help me to crunch this. So I'm going to grab all 3,000 of these related keywords and I'm going to ask GPT to help me understand how people search and shop in the roof racks space. So The biggest thing they do is search by brand when they get more intended. So they put on Thule or Yakima onto a search. So that's going to help me understand, okay, when someone adds a brand to the search term roof rack, that maybe starts to go in this middle of funnel intention. Okay. Next thing they do is by vehicle, makes complete sense. Well, obviously, if someone's searching for a certain make and model of vehicle and a roof rack that's compatible, they're higher intended than just someone looking at generic roof rack types. Then we've got product type. These are always going to be a bit more generic, but maybe if we've got someone searching, a specific crossbar type of roof rack, that might be a bit more intended. Then usage and activity. Again, if someone's really specific that they want a roof rack for storing surfboards, that's far more intended than just a roof rack generically. And then compatibility and fit. Now, that's going to be where a vehicle isn't appropriate, and instead they want one where there's no bars or universally compatible. Okay, that makes sense. Finally, by load and size, okay, they need to maybe transport something really heavy. So all these people, if they've got a particular use case, vehicle, etc. in mind, we know they're serious purchasers. We want them on our site. Their intention and their value is higher. If they're just browsers, just looking at roof rack, we still will capture them, and that's who we'll put in our overall high top of funnel campaign, but at a lower bid to retain our profitability. So that's the strategy for high ROAS shopping ads. Before I move on to the next campaign type we use, just a reminder that if you want the nuts and bolts, they're inside school. I'm limited by time on YouTube. I'm not inside that community. In the first comment, there's a link where you can join for free. Next, we're going to talk search text ads. These are so slept on by so many brands and so poorly executed. Massive opportunity. This is what they are. These ads that appear above the organic listings when you make a search, and they can be so effective if done right, which they almost never are. Here's what 99% of brands do and why it's awful. As you can see, I've put in a very specific intended search term here. Roof racks for Toyota Tacoma. Okay, I've got a vehicle type that I need compatibility with, and I'm served generic text ads. Okay, all of these just talk about generic terms to do with roof racks. And if I go onto the actual landing page, the first one takes me to a home page, so nothing relevant to the Toyota Tacoma vehicle type I talked about. The second one, very common, a sort of overall collection page. Again, I didn't search for any of these rack types. I didn't search for any of these brands. I searched for a specific vehicle type, and that's what I want to see in my text ads. Now, what does this mean? It essentially means that this keyword, this high intent commercial keyword, is ready to be absolutely dominated by someone running text ads properly. And this is why. Google is a weighted auction. It is not just who bids the most, it is quality score multiplied by bid. And that's how they work out ad rank. That's how they work out who sits in first, second, third position and who doesn't get the impression at all. So, when someone searches roof racks for Toyota Tacoma, yes, Google takes into account what all these advertisers have bid, but it also takes into account the quality score, which is made up of landing page quality. That is how well does the landing page match the search intent. So when all the brands are sending to a generic product type landing page, collection page style like this, you can come in and send to a hyper specific landing page like this, 7 best Toyota Tacoma roof racks. You have absolutely nailed the search intent of what I put in here, roof racks for Toyota Tacoma. And essentially, your quality score is made up of landing page relevance. So we've ticked that off. We are also being specific in our ad. So we can talk about in the descriptions, we can say, want the best roof rack for a Toyota Tacoma, not sure which one you need, get it here. Not this generic heavy duty truck racks. So that's going to give us a better ad relevance. Therefore, our ad performance will go up because we'll get more clicks, more impressions, and our user signals will be better because when someone lands here, they're going to dwell, spend more time, click around, rather than here where they're likely to bounce because they've come in here and they're overwhelmed because it's just generic everything in the world about roof racks, every brand, every type, rather than what they searched, which is roof racks for a Toyota Tacoma. Then I can essentially just expand this same principle across all of my different high value commercial keywords, whether it is roof rack plus brand, roof rack plus vehicle type, use case, it doesn't matter. The process of hyper relevant text ads to hyper relevant landing pages is still going to crush. Now, it's great that I'm getting high intent traffic on my money pages, but I still need to plug the leaks in my funnel. Because no matter how high intent the traffic, my conversion rate might be 1%, 2%, there's still 98 out of every 100 people that are not buying in session. And therefore, I need to find a way to put them back into the funnel and reduce leakage. I do that with retargeting ads because that allows me, both on Meta and on the Google Display Network, to essentially take an audience of people that have already been to my site and continually show them advertising to put them back into the funnel. Now, the job of retargeting is not to acquire the customer, it's to get an already interested customer back onto our site. So I like to hit problems, issues, concerns, etc., that are front of mind during the browsing and buying period. So I've asked GPT to suggest some for roof racks, and I think it's done a good job. They're going to be worried about compatibility. They really don't want to get the wrong one for their vehicle, have to send it back, potentially lose money. They're worried about how they're going to install it. They're worried about durability. Are they going to buy this and it's only going to last one trip, or will it last a long time? How's it going to get shipped and delivered to them? Maybe aesthetics. How's it going to look on the car? Maybe the wife's worried it's going to look ugly. All these sorts of things. Noise, yeah, it rattling around is definitely going to be a concern. These are all things I can hit in my retargeting. And I use this app, addcreative.ai, to do that really easily. Now, I want to be clear, you don't need this. It is a paid tool, I think about $30 a month. You can do this on your own. I just like it for the ease and time save. So what I've done here is I'm going to do an ad about the fear of ordering something and it not fitting, bit of risk reversal. And I'm going to say that we've got a perfect fit promise. So essentially, as a brand, which is a great conversion driver, if we help you to order the right one for your vehicle, you give us your reg and everything else, and the right thing doesn't come, we'll handle all the returns, getting the right thing back out to you, etc. So I've gone to Gemini and I've said, here's one of the roof racks we sell. Show me a husband and wife next to a vehicle, stressed because it doesn't fit. I really like that image. I think it captures it really well. And then I've also just chucked in some basic, when the roof rack doesn't fit, just use our perfect fit promise, sort of copy there. And now I can basically drop that image in there and it will generate a load of ads for me. So I've done that and it generates me a load of ads. I personally quite like this one. And the main reason I like this tool is because then I can have this image rendered in a load of other sizes, which is really useful because I need to hit all the different types across Google Display Network and Meta in order to make this the most effective. Then once you've got the creative, it's as simple as coming into the audience manager of Google and Meta, both very similar tools, and creating an audience segment of people who have been on particular pages to remarket to. Maybe they've been on my product pages, some of my collection articles, etc. And therefore, I know they're interested in browsing roof racks, and I just have to drop the URLs of those in there, create that audience, and they are who I can remarket to using that creative. So that's the exact build strategy I would use for this site. Of course, it doesn't stop there. Once it's in life, I need to use the data to tweak and optimize. If you want to watch a video on how I do that, hit subscribe below. That's coming soon.